Tanzania, nakupenda kwa moyo wote. Nchi yangu Tanzania, jina lako nitamka.
Africa is made up of over 50 different countries, and you can see right up at the top end there, close to that arrow, the UK and Leeds. When I went, I'd had the privilege of going to Tanzania twice, and being at Issenye Secondary School. We flew from Leeds, Bradford to Amsterdam, and then it's a long, long flight to Nairobi. We're talking about approaching 5,000 miles. Nairobi is in Kenya, next door to Tanzania. And our journey took us on a 2-day journey from Nairobi down to the edge of Lake Victoria to a place called Musoma, which is the nearest big town to Issenye. And then from the road from Musoma up to Issenye Secondary School. Issenye, that's the motorway. If you wanted to make your journey from Musoma to Issenye, it's a dirt track. Fine when the weather's good. When the weather's raining, and in the rainy season, it's virtually impassable. And if you look too, down that road, for the miles ahead that you can see, there are very few vehicles on it. In fact, I can just about make out a bicycle. You can also see in that slide there, the hand of the driver. That's the minibus that we were in. Issenye is on the edge of the Serengeti, which is the huge, enormous plains that run through Africa, where we're all aware of the wildlife. And these are some of the slides from that. Elephants, zebra, lions, giraffes, which look absolutely amazing animals. If you look at the top section of that picture, you can, in terms of camouflage, you can see how brilliantly camouflaged a giraffe are when they're in amongst the trees and they feed from the tree tops. Many of the people live in traditional homes. In the region of 70% live in this kind of mud-based hut with a thatched roof. This slide here, you can see one in construction taking place, and this is in Issenye village. Next to it is a very tall pole, and that's a great sign, because that's actually the sign of electricity coming through to Issenye. And Samson, who will be speaking to you shortly, will tell you more about that. The village has got electricity, even though the school hasn't. Daniel, who is a young man that our church is supporting, at the moment he's training to be a priest. That's where he lives with his brother, and that's his study area. You can imagine where you're studying on a night when you go home. That's Daniel's area where he does his hard work and the many hours to try and improve his education. That's one of the hostels on the site. If you look up at the ceiling, you'll spot the bedding. And at night time, those beds come down and the young people sleep on the floor. Fortunately, the school's been working very hard to improve standards, and this is a more modern hostel with properly constructed beds, where each young person has their own bed. This young lady here, that's their 2 bunk beds. If you look at her face though closely, you'll spot that she's suffering. She's not very well at all. And malaria is a real risk to health of young people. So somebody might not be in class one particular day, and the reason for that is that they really are desperately poorly, sweating out a malaria fever in their bed. Fortunately, things like clean water helps to reduce that spread of malaria. This is one young lady, very little different from us in England. If we went into your bedroom, you might well find your pop idols or stars on the wall, and she's got her own on the wall there. But a lot of the students, the water that they use on site at the school has to be collected from this well. There are 2 wells about 3 kilometres away from the school. And each morning, it's the duty of one of the classes to go down to the well to bring up the water that they're going to be using during the day. And that water is carried in very large containers on your head, brought up to the school site. 2 or 3 journeys by each pupil to supply the whole school with the water that they need. And that water is put into big tubs on the site. And again, Samson tells me there's been further improvements in the storage system on site. Fortunately, in the last few years, they've managed to get a borehole that's successfully hit water. Not only, Samson was telling me last night, that's a 66-metre drill down into the ground. It was the 3rd borehole that they put down, and they managed to hit very high quality water. And that water is only used for drinking water. And the students on the site are told not to drink the water from the well, but to drink the water from the pump, because that reduces the incidence of disease. Tuck shops, breakfast bars, other areas, what we might be looking forward to later today. This is the centre of the school in Issenye, and those big boilers supply the food that's produced, and it's mainly cereal-based food. That's maize that's in that big tub there that students will be eating a little bit later on. They have a lot of beans, and very, very occasionally, once or twice in a fortnight, they may have meat or fish. But they have a good diet, and you can see that they're eating that predominantly outside in the little bowls in that area. The school day assembly will have already taken place at Issenye Secondary School. The senior prefects, and there's a fantastic sense of responsibility. Most of the things done in and around the school are done by senior prefects. They ring the bell, line up for assembly. You might feel that at the moment your bum's a bit sore as you're sat on the ground there. At Issenye Secondary School you'll be standing outside, and that's 7:30 in the morning. And many of those students have already been up for several hours, some of them studying on the kerosene lamps in the classrooms from early on. We don't have many chickens running through the sites here. If you look at that slide, you might well have the animals on the side floating past as you've got assembly. This is a neighbouring primary school. We can look over to Corpus Primary School there. This is one a couple of miles away from the school. Look at the floor. This is a more recently built primary school, but look at the numbers in that class. 70 students in one class with one teacher, desperate for an education, working very long hours with very few breaks. That's one of the classes, the boys in the school. There's boys and girls, and often the classes are mixed, but sometimes it's just a male class. And if you look at the age there, that's very illuminating, because their school is like ours, goes up to GCSE, but for a variety of reasons, young people don't get the chance to have continuity in their education, and they may well be in their early 20s by the time they've completed the GCSEs. But they are fantastic. Look at the smiles on those faces. Very hard working, absolutely tremendous committed young people. 3 languages they have to learn. Most will have their own natural language, their tribal language. They will all speak Kiswahili, which is the language of Tanzania, the national language, but all their examinations are done in English. That's a bit like you having to do your GCSEs in Spanish or French, all of them. So your geography, your history, all your exams have been done in another language. Swahili or Kiswahili, a couple of the key words. In a moment when I introduce Samson, we'll do a Tanzanian handshake so you can see what that's like. These are some of the key words. Jambo is hello, how are you? And the response is, si Jambo, I'm fine. So we try that. If I say to you Jambo, you say back to me, si Jambo. Jambo.
Si Jambo.
Excellent. If we were saying to a whole group rather than an individual, the plural, I might say ham jambo, and you'd say back hatu jambo. So let's try that again. Ham jambo.
Hatu jambo.
Try that one again. Hatu jambo.
Hatu jambo.
Caribou is that fantastic word. Everywhere you're greeted by Tanzanians with a fantastic smile, and they will say caribou many times. Welcome. Shikamo is a greeting that's given to somebody that's elderly. And the older you are in Tanzania, the wiser you're considered to be and the greater the respect you're giving. So to an older person, you would say shikamo, which means it's a great greeting. It actually literally means, I lick your boots. So that means to say that you are very great. I'm not worthy to do anything but to lick your boots. So I might say to an elder, shikamo, and the response would be marahaba, I'm well. And the fantastic phrase at the end, Sante Sana, means thank you very much. So that's Tanzania. Can I introduce Samson and Mwita to you? In Tanzania, we might well stay greeting and talking to each other for a long time like this special handshake. Caribou.